Welcome. Today's lesson is on how to write or actually evaluate, not write, but evaluate rules for sequences. So let me introduce it to you by first talking about kind of how we do notation or term notation when it comes to sequences. There are many ways to represent sequences and the way to represent the terms, but for the most part, a lot of math books will designate each term with a subscript. And what I mean by that is they'll say that A1 represents the first term. The second term would be A2. The third term would be A3. The fourth term would be A4, and so forth. And these terms, obviously, this is an arithmetic sequence, by the way. If we notice, we're adding 4 to progress through the term. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms. If I wanted to know what the seventh term is, I could write A7 equals, and that tells me I'm looking for the next term. Well, I just have to add 4 to it, so A7 would be 27. Now, you're not going to be asked to come up with the rules, you're just going to be given the rules. Now, the rule for this particular arithmetic sequence is 4n minus 1, where n represents the term number. In other words, this little subscript of 1, if I plug a 1 here, what's 4 times 1? It's 4 minus 1 is 3. If I plug in a 4 for the fourth term, which is 15, by the way, so I plug a 4 here, what's 4 times 4? That's 16. Minus 1 is 15. It gives me the fourth term. If I wanted to know this seventh term, I can plug a 7 here. 4 times 7 is 28. Minus 1 is 27. It gives me the seventh term. A lot of times they'll actually write this as an equation, and they'll put an, where you got to be careful here. This little n is a subscript. This is 4 times n. Now, this is an arithmetic sequence. We could easily see a geometric sequence. So we could see a sequence like this. an equals 4 to the nth power. Now, this is a geometric sequence, and it's a rule. And if we want to know what the first term is, I plug a 1 in for n to know what A1 or the first term is. And what's 4 to the 1 power? It is 4. If I want to know what the second term is, I plug in a 2. That's 4 squared, which is 16. If I want to know what the third term is, I plug in a 3. That's 4 to the third power, or that's 64. Now, let's suppose I want to know what A6 is, or the sixth term. I recommend for this lesson you always have a calculator handy and familiar with how your calculator works, because I'm just going to do 4 to the sixth power. So I'm going to do 4 raised to, that's what that little caret symbol means, raised to the sixth power, and I can find out that the sixth term is 4096. 4096. Now, just so you know, oftentimes they'll leave off the an equals. They'll just give you the rule as an expression. Like, for instance, they might give you 3 parentheses 2 raised to the n without an equals or an an. But again, that's still just a rule for a sequence. This one happens again to be geometric, but you don't have to remember that this is geometric. Just plug a 1 here to find the first term. 2 raised to the 1 power is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Now I'm going to be multiplying by multiple 2's. In other words, 2 to find the second term raised to the second. So 2 to the second is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. So if you'll notice, though, I'm going to start doubling, because that's what the 2 does. If I did one more, put a 3 in here, 2 to the third power is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. And then I really don't even have to look at the rule. I can just start doubling these terms if they want the first 5 terms, 48, 96, and so forth. But let's say they want the 10th term. That's when I grab the calculator and I go 3 times 2 raised to the 10th power equals 3072. So the 10th term would be 3072. So a calculator will be very helpful in finding specific terms, and then you can just write out the terms. Now let's do another one, because I want to emphasize that these expressions might get a little more difficult, but you should be able to evaluate them. The hardest ones you might get is what's called a quadratic sequence, but let's just give it to you here. AN equals 9n squared plus 8n plus 4. And it might ask for the first 4 terms. It might ask for A1, A2, A3, and A4. Well, all you need to do is plug in a 1 into these spots where there's an n. Remember, this is a single term that just says A, for the first term. Don't try to divide the n over or anything. It's kind of like a y equals. This is the outcome or term number we want. But a 1 squared, so I'm looking for the first term. 1 squared is 1, times 9 is 9. 1 times 8 is 8. 9 plus 8 is 17. Plus 4 more is 21. So the first term is 21. To find the second term, I'm going to do a 2 here. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 9 is 36. Put a 2 here because I'm still evaluating for the second term. 2 times 8 is 16. So now I'm going to add 16 and then add my 4. So again, that's going to be 20. That's going to be 56. To find my third term, 3 squared is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 8 times 3 is 24. Then add 4. So here we got 80, 105, 109. So we get 109. Now, again, as we get harder, we might want to use our calculator to find the fourth term. I might try not to get a glare on the calculator here. To find the fourth term, I would do 9 times 4 squared plus 8 times 4 plus 4. And the calculator follows order of operations. Hopefully you can see that this representation here matches this, just with a 4 replacing the ends, and I hit equals, and I get that the fourth term is 1080. This should hopefully allow you to do this Excel assignment. If you have any questions, please do bring them to class, and I will help you then.